Mac here on Birds 365. McMullen and McDonald hanging around, less than an hour to play. Chris Franklin in about 10, 12 minutes from now. During the time we had Scott Grayson on, John jumped in and said, as per Adam Schefter, it's a done deal. Vic Fangio, next defensive coordinator, Philadelphia Eagles. So it came down yesterday in the afternoon after the late starting Eagles media gathering began, Howie Roseman and Nick Sirianni, that Vic Fangio had parted ways with the Miami Dolphins. Was the first time it was reported. So it was approximately 2:30, 2:45 yesterday when this came down. It's 9:10 right now, and it's already being reported that Vic Fangio is the new defensive coordinator of the Philadelphia Eagles. So he separates from the Miami Dolphins, and he's the new coordinator of the Eagles in 21 hours. Is that what we're supposed to be led to believe, that this all came together magically and all the dominoes just fell into place and it's a done deal? You did say last segment, I'm not disagreeing with you, there may have been some tampering going on here, that conversations that were had weren't supposed to be had. Is there going to be any investigation? Now, you can just track back what's happened. Fangio went to them and said, listen, I'm not sure I'm happy here, but I might want to go closer to my family. The Dolphins' response were, oh, you want to walk away? We get off the teat of paying you the most of any coordinator in football. Vic, if you got to go home, you got to go home. Wish you the best. Did they just let him walk out the door? Is there going to be an investigation that the Eagles were tampering with someone under contract?
No. Because, tampering, and I'm being tongue-in-cheek mainly because fans were so upset with the Gannon stuff. All the Gannon stuff was a timing issue. Monty Ossenfort making a mistake. But that they legitimately violated a league rule. In this
instance, if you believe that the Eagles talked to Vic Fangio, they legitimately he's under contract.
You're allowed to talk to people. You're allowed to have conversation.
Then why couldn't Vic Fangio talk to Jonathan Gannon or Monty Ossenfort talk to Jonathan Gannon? What's the difference?
Because it's a league rule that you can't talk to assistant coaches in that particular, in Super Bowl assistant coaches. By the way, again, there were a bunch of things. I don't want to get too far in the weeds, but you could have second interviews in the week off for the Super Bowl. So Shane Steichen had already interviewed with the Colts, so the Colts were allowed to talk to Shane Steichen that week. The Cardinals, because Monty got the job so late, he got the GM job so late, he didn't put in an original request to interview Jonathan Gannon, and he contacted him to congratulate him for winning the NFC Championship game and said, basically, look, we're going to be interested in hiring you. Would you be interested in interviewing you? And Gannon claims that was, he didn't think much about it. He got back to focusing on the Super Bowl, yada, yada, yada. But there is a strict rule that you can't do it. So by law, and Monty admitted this, he made a mistake. He broke the rule, and that's why the Eagles were able to gain draft capital. In this instance, you can pick up the phone. I always say Nick Sirianni talks to Frank Reich all the time when he was the head coach in Indianapolis, when he was the head coach in Carolina. People are friends. They talk, and they talk about things. There's no way you can control that part of it. Everybody knows the Eagles wanted Vic. Everybody knows Vic would have preferred to stay here. He's a big Phillies fan, yada, yada, yada. Timing didn't work out. By the way, Adam Schefter finally confirmed that yesterday. Thank you, Adam. Let me read the tweet from Adam. I got to look that up. Finally confirmed the timing didn't work out from Adam Schefter. So you can finally believe it. In this particular instance, I honestly believe, and I know, and I'll be talking to him today, I know I'm pretty close with a couple guys who cover the Dolphins. Brandon Staley's available. Mike McDaniel would rather have Brandon Staley. Now, we'll see if that shakes out the way I think it's going to shake out. So they're probably like, you know what? let's get off the hook. We don't care. So they're not going to push it, number one, because I legitimately think they don't care. And the Eagles that get their guy probably for less money. I can't believe they're going to pay him $4.5 million. He'll have a nice salary. Don't get me wrong, but they're not going to pay him that. And everybody's happy, and everything's copacetic. Now, the bigger issue to me is, again, I've said this pretty consistently. I think everybody's caught up to this defense. And by the way, Vic,
you have moved off that, John. You've been on that for a year and change now, and you haven't moved one iota.
and by the way, Vic himself talked about it last year when he got to Miami. He was saying, "Yeah, maybe it's time I have to change some things up." So maybe that's a positive. And at the end of the day, at least you have the guy running the defense instead of the copycats. So that's a positive. But yeah, I think I was hoping the Eagles would get away from that defensive scheme, as you know. I'm not going to change that, but at least they got the best one. He'll run it the best. I mean, nobody knows it better than him, but I think people have caught up to it.
Yeah. So, maybe I didn't make myself clear. Oh, I believe there was tampering. Will it ever be proved? Will it ever be investigated? Maybe not. There's a reason why we found out about the mistake that Monty Ossenford made, because the Eagles bitched about it and said, hey, he tampered. And the NFL investigated and said, they did. So, yeah, we're going to throw you a draft pick or movement in a draft round or whatever. There's a good chance this never gets proved and or investigated because both parties are cool with it. It doesn't mean it didn't happen. As sure as I'm sitting here, obviously, I believe the Eagles tampered. You can't tell me they got the deal done for Fangio to be the defense coordinator in 20 hours.
No, I'm not telling you that. Obviously, there was contact. But what I was trying to say is nobody cares. It's not that big of a deal. It happens all the time. The Dolphins.
Wait, time out. No, it doesn't happen all the time. When does a guy walk away from a job and have another job in 20 hours?
No, I'm talking tampering, guys talking to people inside, not this particular situation.
Tampering that leads to one guy leaving an organization.
I'm saying there's tampering all the time. This particular situation, like free agency, there's all kinds of tampering. They call it legal tampering now. There's all, once you get to the combine, there's all kinds of tampering all over the place. By the way, not only with players and coaches as well, and how you're trying to manipulate things that way. So there's all kinds of tampering that goes on in the NFL. When nobody cares, it's not that big of a deal. And in this particular instance, nobody cares, so it's not going to be that big of a deal. You could further this back further. The Eagles interviewed Ron Rivera and Mike Caldwell. Why did they do that? Rooney Rule candidates. So they already had that out of the way. So they can immediately jump. So this is going back days. Yeah, they tampered. Oh, no question about it. But nobody cares, so it's not going to amount to anything.
No, it won't amount to anything. You're right. But those who think that it wasn't tampering, come on. The facts just tell you that was the case. Will they pay a price for it? Probably not. They're probably just going to move on with Vic Fangio. And yeah, I'm very interested to see what kind of contract he gets. Again, no skin off my nose. It's money out of Jeffrey Lurie's pocket, and he can pay anything. Yeah. So it isn't like, oh my God, because they gave Vic Fangio $4.5 million, they're not going to be able to sign a better backup linebacker next year. No, one thing has nothing to do with the other. If they're enamored with him enough and believe the godfather of the defense is what they have to have, you pay what you pay.
For all the people that thought he was the savior,
yeah, you got your savior. 1 year later, but the savior's coming to town.
You got your savior, so good luck with it.
Don't know if it's going to work, because John, I give you credit. You have been consistent. The Fangio defense has been figured out. That has been the McMullen mantra for sneaking up on 2 years now. Even when Gannon was here, who you went to bat for, I went to bat for too. We still said, is the NFL not figuring the Fangio thing out? At one time, it was new, it was hot, and people didn't have answers for it. But the longer it goes on, the more copycats you get. Yeah, people figure out how to actually beat it. And are the Eagles getting onto the train when it's already left the station? That's a legitimate question that we will ask going forward next year. So we know who the defensive coordinator is going to be. Who's the offensive coordinator going to be? We get Chris Franklin up here, get his take on this, yesterday's press conference. An interesting time to be an Eagles fan. We appreciate you streaming in here on Birds 365.